In Halifax, hours before boarding a plane to the NATO summit in Ankara, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that Canada has selected Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems to build its next fleet of submarines. 12 boats, the Type 212CD, the same submarine Germany and Norway are already building for their own navies. The contract is the single largest defense procurement in Canadian history, estimated at over $100 billion when maintenance, infrastructure, weapons, and lifecycle costs are included over 30 years. The competing bid from South Korea's Hanwha Ocean was rejected. The United States was never in the running, and the detail that makes this story extraordinary, the one that separates it from every other defense contract this channel has covered, is what Germany and Norway did to win it. They gave up their own submarines. Both countries surrendered one production slot each from their own naval orders so that Canada could receive its first 4 boats by 2034, instead of waiting until the late 2030s. A country does not give up its own submarines for a customer. It gives up its own submarines for a partner. Either that, or Germany and Norway looked at the absolute circus happening south of the Canadian border and realized, quick, let's give the competent people the keys before the neighbors burn the house down. The data heavily supports the second option, I think. My name is Elle, and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics, and the word partner is doing structural work in this announcement that goes far beyond a procurement decision. When Canada's 12 Type 212CDs enter service alongside Germany's 6 and Norway's 6, the combined fleet will total 24 identical submarines, which is the largest conventional submarine fleet of a single type anywhere on this planet. Every boat will share the same spare parts, the same maintenance procedures, the same training pipelines, the same weapon systems, the same communications architecture, the same NATO interoperability standards as well, while Washington relies on bloated, over-engineered tech that only works with their proprietary systems. Canada and Europe are showing the world how adults build an alliance. It is peak European efficiency, leaving the Pentagon to wonder why they can't just share a wrench. The German ambassador to Canada told CTV, and I'm quoting here, "We are not really interested in a classical customer-producer relationship. We really want to bring Canada into this proven relationship and partnership we have with Norway with equal decision rights for anything that comes in our future." Equal decision rights. That is not a sales contract. That is a strategic alliance expressed through a submarine hull. If you've been following this channel's coverage of the Canada-Europe convergence, this is the moment we have been building towards across a dozen videos now. The Global Eye surveillance aircraft from Saab built on the Canadian Bombardier airframe with zero American content, the Safe Defense Procurement Agreement giving Canadian companies 80% access to Europe's €150 billion defense fund, CETA moving towards full ratification, the Sovereign Wealth Fund redirecting capital away from the United States, Finland's president calling for Canada to join a 40-member EU, Bloomberg calling Canada the EU's 28th member state, and now 12 German submarines that will make Canada's Navy structurally interoperable with 2 European NATO allies for the next half-century. This is a huge deal. Carney was very explicit about the reasoning. He said, in the end, this decision was about choosing the absolute best platform and partnership to meet Canada's combined strategic, security, and economic interests. The TKMS platform is optimized for Arctic waters and is fully NATO interoperable, allowing it to communicate seamlessly, to share intelligence, and carry out joint missions. The Arctic framing is critical. We have to pay attention to that. The Type 212CD is designed specifically for operations under ice in the Norwegian Sea, the Barents Sea, the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, and the Arctic approaches that are becoming increasingly contested as the climate crisis opens new shipping routes and Russia expands its northern military infrastructure. Canada, Germany, and Norway share those operating areas. Their submarines will now share them together. If you're trying to understand how to spot structural shifts in defense markets like this before they become mainstream consensus, my book, Awake: The Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age of Soft Lies, is available as an ebook and audiobook. Subscribers get 10% off, and you can grab the first chapter for free in the description links below. The economic package attached to this bid is as significant as the submarines themselves. TKMS CEO Oliver Burkhart said the program will deliver tens of billions in Canadian economic benefits, including torpedo manufacturing in Canada, investment in the Port of Churchill in Manitoba to export critical minerals and LNG to Europe, a carbon capture facility in Alberta, and partnerships with 4 Indigenous development organizations. Just compare this to American defense contracts, which usually come with strings attached and perhaps a lecture. Germany and Norway brought actual economic substance to the table, proving that when Europe builds a partnership, they invest in the whole society, not just the military-industrial complex. Germany also committed to purchasing billions in Canadian liquefied natural gas, LNG, connecting the submarine deal directly to the energy corridor agreements this channel covered between Canada and Germany earlier this year. The submarines are the headline, the LNG contracts, the critical minerals pipeline, the Arctic infrastructure, and the industrial partnerships are the body of the agreement. Canada is not just buying boats, it is embedding itself into a German-Norwegian defense industrial energy ecosystem that will take decades to unwind if it ever does. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius put it in terms that should be studied by anyone tracking the realignment of Western alliances. If we come to that decision of the Canadian government, we talk about, at the end, about a fleet of up to 24 submarines of the same type. This is really an advantage, really a benefit for NATO and for all of the allies to be able to operate with 24 of the same type of submarines. 24 identical boats, 3 navies, 1 fleet. It doesn't sound like procurement, it is pure integration, and the timing is deliberate as well. Carney announced the decision in Halifax and flew directly to the NATO summit in Ankara, where Secretary General Mark Rutte has told allies they must arrive with concrete military capabilities, not just spending pledges. Canada is arriving with the largest conventional submarine order in NATO history from a European manufacturer in partnership with 2 European allies, designed for the Arctic waters, where NATO's northern flank is most exposed and where American submarine withdrawal has left the most significant gap. The US pulled all its submarines from NATO force structure last month. Canada just ordered 12 European ones to help fill that void. Basically, the US threw a tantrum and rage quit the North Atlantic group chat, so Canada did the only logical thing. They joined forces with a European powerhouse to lock down the Arctic while Washington was busy looking in the mirror. Defense News headlined this report: Canada picks Germany's TKMS for historic submarine buy in nod to Europe. But that framing, a nod to Europe, understates what happened today. A nod is a polite thing. What Canada did is structural. A nod is the polite gesture you give the US while they're unraveling. This isn't a nod. This was Canada signing the lease on a new, highly sophisticated Euro-Canadian future and officially leaving the American sphere of influence in the rearview mirror. It chose to build its most sovereign military capability, the submarine fleet that will patrol its Arctic waters, protect its coastlines, and project force under ice for the next 50 years with European partners rather than Asian or American ones. It embedded itself into a traditional fleet with shared crews, shared parts, shared command architecture, and shared strategic purpose, and it did so on the way to a NATO summit where the country that used to lead the alliance just pulled its submarines out. In terms of what's going to happen next, the prediction is that Canada will probably finalize the TKMS contract by mid-2027, with first delivery by 2034. The 24-boat fleet will become NATO's primary conventional submarine capability in the North Atlantic and Arctic, filling the gap left by the American withdrawal. The LNG and critical minerals corridor between Canada and Germany will become operational within 5 years, linking submarine procurement to energy security in a single strategic framework. And the trajectory this channel has been documenting, Canada buying Swedish surveillance aircraft, joining European defense procurement, signing European trade deals, being invited to European summits, and now building European submarines will likely reach a point where the phrase the EU's 28th member state stops being a Bloomberg headline and starts being a description of observable institutional reality. But the submarine decision only makes sense when you see the full arc of Canada's integration into European strategic architecture. I made a separate video on how Finland's president called for a 40-member EU that includes Canada and why the institutional steps that got Canada to that conversation were already further along than most people realize. That's the video that I would watch next. Thanks so much for watching this one. Subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.